When's the last time you pulled an all-nighter? I do it every once in a while, usually when I'm up against the deadline for producing this show. I don't remember the last time I stayed up all night because I was just having too much fun to go to bed. I'm pretty sure that used to happen. Not that I don't enjoy producing this show, it's just... well, you know what I mean. I used to be able to bounce back from an all-nighter pretty easily. It still feels great to go to bed about 9 a.m. After 24-plus non-stop hours, the bed, it holds you like a mother. With a few good hours sleep, you can usually survive the lack of sleep hangover the next afternoon. But if you have to keep going the next day after an all-nighter, around 2 in the afternoon, you begin to achieve a deep, visceral understanding of the concept of gravity. The very earth seems to rise up through wide, anchored feet to grip every muscle and organ, pulling down, begging you to lay indiscriminately on the grass, on the pavement, on the grocery store linoleum. As we get older, it's sad to concede certain pleasures to the domain of the young. Next chance you get, find a good excuse to skip a night's sleep. About 4 in the morning, just as your physical and mental faculties start to wane, a definite rush of nocturnal power starts to vibrate in your bones, as though the moon and the stars are concentrating their energies on the few living creatures who happen to be conscious. You may pay for it later, but once in a while, it's worth the price. It's the NeoRadio Hour. Hi, I'm Peter Donalds. This is the NeoRadio Hour, home of independent writers, musicians, home tapers, the folk artists of the electronic age. We've got the usual eclectic mix of scenes, stories, sound sculpture, and original music, including neo-bits from our own studios. Regulars Frank the Courier and Mr. Sunshine are back. And in conversation, it's Rob Craig, leader of the San Francisco band Number 9, on the trials and the joys of keeping that band together. It's the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art.
The pressure of paradise. Simple pink stucco against sky blue sky. Dynamite thuds in the distance. Another golf course excavated. Is there a big hole in Tennessee now known as Florida? She calls me late at night, maudlin, sentimental. It's a new kind of courage to me. I try and let it go. It's not what I was waiting for. Perpetual distractions to and from the beach. It's hard to die. Hardly dying, he says, slapping me across my back. She understands limits, teaching me about consequence. Off the drawing board, life on a grid. Democratic anarchy. Eastern drivers jump lights. Midwesterners touch their brakes incessantly. And no one knows what a Westerner might do. It all looks similar. It's hard to judge distance. She and I trade offense and defense on the phone. Next time, she's offense. It's in the way Latinos with steel backpacks of insecticide appear and disappear. The company is called Attack. I'm trying to tell her you need to break down as much as build, otherwise faith falls into belief. I heard a duck go down the other night, a hiss, a sucked-in splash, a turtle. It must have been the size of a small microwave. As time passes, our good times seem more and more like islands. An old white woman has a young black man rubbing in lotion. The sun burns a movie on my closed eyelids. A tangle of shopping carts, aisles clogged with Massachusetts, Kentucky, Oklahoma, California. There's either 7 or 12 years left in the savings book. Manatees unzipped by motorboats. Every bumper sticker in the world is here. Frogs scale our walls and eat the bugs too big to slip through our screens. I wait in vain for a response, a long letter I wrote. I don't think my offer's what she had in mind. I remember her stories, Dad smashing up their belongings. In my house, every kid punched through drywall. She wants to do it right. I want to do something else. Orange buckets are erected against the blue sky, scooping out the muck. The first thing built is a great big pastel gate announcing the next village to be. There's something in the way she traced my back, her fingers trailing ghosts. I awoke to my past with her. I just can't believe it. The whole fucking thing is built on a swamp.
The NeoRadio Hour.
Rodeo girl. The NeoRadio Hour is proud to present the Dialogues of Plato, written around 400 BC. The first of the dialogues is Euthyphro.
So what's new, Socrates, to make you leave your usual haunts in the Lyceum and spend your time here by the King Archon's court? Surely you are not prosecuting anyone before the King's Archon, as I am.
The Athenians do not call this a prosecution, but an indictment, Euthyphro.
What is this you say? Someone must have indicted you, for you are not going to tell me that you have indicted someone else.
No, indeed.
But someone has indicted you?
Quite so.
Who is he?
Well, I do not really know him myself, Euthyphro, but he is apparently young and unknown. They call him Miletus, I believe. He belongs to the Pythian den. If you know anyone from that den called Miletus, with long hair, not much of a beard, and a rather aquiline nose.
No, I don't know him, Socrates. What charge does he bring against you?
What charge? A not ignoble one, I think, for it is no small thing for a young man to have knowledge of such an important subject. He is likely to be wise, and when he sees my ignorance corrupting his contemporaries, he proceeds to accuse me to the city, as he would to their mother. I think he is the only one of our public men to start out the right way, for it is right to care first that the young should be as good as possible, just as a good farmer is likely to take care of the young plants first, and of the others later. So too, Miletus first gets rid of us who corrupt the young shoots, as he says, and then afterwards he will obviously take care of the older ones and become a source of great blessings for the city, as seems likely to happen to one who started out this way.
I could wish this were true, Socrates, but I fear the opposite may happen. He seems to me to start out by harming the very heart of the city by attempting to wrong you. Tell me, what does he say you do to corrupt the young?
Strange things to hear him tell me. For he says that I am a maker of gods, and on the ground that I create new gods while not believing in the old gods, he has indicted me for their sake, as he puts it.
I understand, Socrates. This is because you say that the divine sign keeps coming to you. So he has written this indictment against you as one who makes innovations in religious matters. And he comes to court to slander you, knowing that such things are easily misrepresented to the crowd. The same is true in my case. Whenever I speak of divine matters in the assembly and foretell the future, they laugh me down as if I were crazy. And yet, I have foretold nothing that didn't happen. Nevertheless, they envy all of us who do this. One need not worry about them, but meet them head on.
My dear Euthyphro, to be laughed at does not matter, for the Athenians do not mind anyone they think clever, as long as he does not teach his own wisdom. But if they think that he makes others to be like himself, they get angry, whether through envy, as you say, or for some other reason.
I have certainly no desire to test their feelings towards me in this matter.
Perhaps you seem to make yourself but rarely available, and not to be willing to teach your own wisdom. But I'm afraid that my liking for people makes them think that I pour out to anybody anything I have to say, not only without charging a fee, but even glad to reward anyone who is willing to listen. If then they were intending to laugh at me, as they laugh at you, there would be nothing unpleasant in their spending their time in court laughing and jesting. But if they are going to be serious, the outcome is not clear except to you prophets.
Perhaps it will come to nothing, Socrates, and you will fight your case as you think best, as I think I will mine.
Now, by the way, what is your case, Euthyphro? Are you the defendant or the prosecutor?
The prosecutor.
Whom do you prosecute?
One who I am thought crazy to prosecute.
Are you pursuing someone who will easily escape you?
Far from it, for he is quite old,
Who is it?
My father.
My dear sir, your own father?
Certainly.
What is the charge? What is the case about?
Murder, Socrates.
Good heavens! Certainly, Euthyphro. Most men would not know they could do this and be right. It is not the part of anyone to do this, but of one who is far advanced in wisdom.
Yes, by Zeus, Socrates, this is so.
Is the man your father killed one of your relatives? Or is that obvious, for you would not prosecute your father for the murder of a stranger?
It is ridiculous, Socrates, for you to think that it makes any difference whether the victim is a stranger or a relative. One should only watch whether the killer acted justly or not. If he acted justly, let him go. But if not, one should prosecute, even if the killer shares your health and table. The pollution is the same if you knowingly keep company with such a man, and do not cleanse yourself and him by bringing him to justice. The victim was a dependent of mine, and when we were farming in Naxos, he was a servant of ours. He killed one of our household slaves in drunken anger. So my father bound him hand and foot and threw him into a ditch, then sent a man here to inquire from the priest what should be done. Well, during that time, he gave no thought or care of the bound man, as being a killer, and it was no matter if he died, which he did. Hunger and cold in his bonds caused his death before the messenger came back from the seer. Well, both my father and my relatives were angry that I am prosecuting my father for the murder on behalf of a murderer when he hadn't even killed him, they say. And even if he had, the dead man does not deserve a thought, since he was a killer. They say it is impious for a son to prosecute his father for a murder. But their ideas of the divine attitude to piety and impiety are wrong, Socrates.
Whereas by Zeus, Euthyphro, you think that your knowledge of the divine and piety and impiety are so accurate that when these things happen, as you say, you have no fear of having acted impiously and bringing your father to trial.
I should be of no use, Socrates, and Euthyphro would not be superior to the majority of men if I did not have accurate knowledge of all such things.
It is indeed most important, my admirable Euthyphro, that I should become your pupil, and, as regards this indictment, challenge Meletus about these very things, and say to him that in the past, too, I considered knowledge about the divine to be the most important, and that now that he says I am guilty of improvising and innovating about the gods, I have become your pupil. I would say to him, if, Meletus, you agree that Euthyphro is wise in these matters, consider me, too, to have the right beliefs, and do not bring me to trial. If you do not think so, prosecute that teacher of mine, not me, for corrupting the older men. If he is not convinced, and does not discharge me or indict you instead of me, I shall repeat the same challenge in court.
Yes, by Zeus, Socrates. And if he should try to indict me, I think I would find his weak spots, and the talk in court would be about him rather than me.
Ah, yes. It is because I realize that I am eager to become your pupil, my dear friend. I know that other people, as well as this Meletus, do not even seem to notice you, whereas he sees me so sharply and clearly that he indicts me for ungodliness. So tell me now, by Zeus, what you just now maintained you clearly knew. What kind of thing do you say that godliness and ungodliness are, both as regards murder and other things? Or is the pious not the same and the like in every action, and the impious the opposite of all that is pious and the like itself, and everything that is to be impious presents us with one form or appearance insofar as it is impious?
Most certainly, Socrates.
Tell me then, what is the pious and what the impious do you say?
listening to the NeoRadio Hour, independent audio art.
Number 1, a Friday afternoon. Number 2, a dog with no claws. Number 3, a Boy Scout who lives in the closet. Number 4, a 10th grade girl who said he had skinny arms and made him feel nothing like himself. Number 5, an English teacher who bleached his dog, then painted him blue and white. Number 6, a garden with no rocks in it. Number 7, he sees his dead grandfather standing on the porch, drinking a gin and tonic, one hand over his heart. Number 8, he kisses his near-dead grandmother and fears her wrinkled lips will be his. Number 9, following Michelle Dietrich home from the bus stop and marveling at her Catholic school dress. Number 10, the fixation with women's clothing. Number 11, a broken bicycle. Number 12, a broken finger. Number 13, a chess man with the eyes cut out. Number 14, a marijuana cigarette that burned like trash. Number 15, the subsequent marijuana addiction. Number 16, religious dichotomies are uncovered. They are in a car driving 100 miles an hour. She is on the seat next to him. It is a yellow day. The window is amethyst. The doors are painted chartreuse, the reminder of a psychedelic afternoon with his friends when they listened all day long to Dark Side of the Moon. She turns and looks at him. In the corner of her mouth is a drop of spit. He slows to 90 and kisses it. Number 17, stop up here, she says. Number 18, here, he asks. He can feel his knees. He can feel his mother watching him from 50 miles away. He can see his tennis shoes resting on the accelerator. Here? Number 19, up there, she says. Number 20, he drives the car over adobe. A cow runs into the mustard weeds. A magpie finds he is dying. The trees whisper. He wonders if 1,000 years ago the Indian stopped in the exact place he is stopping now. Number 25, a moment's reflection is lastimation, and he temporarily forgets his need for her. She opens the door and stands in the summer grass. He sees that her feet are half the size of his. He stares at her breasts. They are full like August moons. A butterfly is caught in the wind and appears to fly backwards. He spreads the ancient sleeping bag in the bed of his truck. They undress and pretend they are adults. Number 32, they call it sex. They don't call it making love, having sex, the perfect word for 1975. Bitter uncommitment, it fits youth like a glove. Number 33, Buitre the vulture flies over. He sees them down below. The earth crackles, then yawns. The oak spits its kernel. The dog in the distance howls. The coyote on the hillside stops and wonders if he is dying. Number 34, he says a prayer. He pushes inside her. He is reminded of blue and yellow and electric filaments that were once attached to his feet when he was in the hospital at 6, with needles stuck in him for months and months at an end. Needles that soon became pleasant feeling. Number 35, she smiles and opens her mouth. Number 36, he sees he can breathe inside her. Number 37, he clasps his mouth over hers. He tastes the cannabis. It is sweet like fresh cut grass. He grasps her. The world flows around him faster than he can think. Number 38, he falls over her. Number 39, she pushes into him. Number 40, he says a prayer. Number 41, oh God in heaven, I was not meant to feel such pleasure. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 5 is 30. 7 times 5 is 35. 8 times 5 is 40. 9 times 5 is 45. 10 times 5 is 50. 11 times 5. 11 times 5. Number 42, a car drives by and he feels no shame. Number 43, he at last dares to hold his breasts in her hands. He holds them and marvels. He holds himself inside her. 10 times 10. 12 times 12. 12 times 12 is 144. 13 times 12. 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 11. 10 times 11, he collapses. The world collapses around him. He says, I'm not having sex anymore. I'm not counting. I'm putting myself inside her. He says, I'm making love. He says, I'm making love now. Number 49, above him flies Buitre the vulture, who dips in the wind and flows over him. Number 50, he feels himself pushing inside her. He holds her, hoping the moment will never stop.
The NeoRadio Hour.
had a couple of ADATs with my last drummer, and we did a lot of recordings with him, and but they were just produced by the band and stuff, and they turned out really good actually, and I don't know. The next step, I guess, is to find somebody who's really got the professional edge, and I don't know what it is actually. I mean, I think that the demos that we have and the quality of the tape and the songs and the level of the musicianship and that is as good as really anything that's out there. The guys they're great players, and we've worked at a long time, and but I don't know quite what it is. A bunch of things have to line up, and you have to have a lot of people who mean something behind you, and if that doesn't happen, well, maybe it's not the end of the world. It's like there's 400 or 500 bands, and a lot of them are really good. A lot of them have really good players, that land here from all over the country, and they're all doing similar things, and it gets to this certain point, and it's kind of the luck of the draw thing. You do the best you can, and you try and have a really good time doing it, and then just go from there, But so that's just what we've been doing. We've just kept plugging away. We've managed to keep the band together. They all really like the songs, and that's one of the hardest things to do, And we get pretty good gigs at a lot of the smaller clubs, and so it just goes on and gets better and better. But we'll see. I think it has to fall in the lap of the right person, and they have to get the right word from somebody else, and it just has to kind of snowball from there.
So when did you figure this is what you wanted to do?
It was, I was back in Michigan, and I was just, I was playing small cafes back there, and for the first time got together with a real good friend of mine who was another guitar player, and these two women who were in another local band, and they were a bass and drum player, and we just jammed a little together, and it was just the greatest thing. I had never been in a band up until then. I had just been in a bunch of smaller acoustic things, and I don't know, it was just so much fun, and we had such a great time. I just decided, no matter what, that I was gonna. That's the kind of thing that I wanted to do. I love playing with other people and with a rhythm section, and in clubs and stuff, and have just kept it going ever since then. After that band broke up, I moved out to San Francisco. That was about I guess 6 or 7 years ago now, and got another band out here, and I've just been working it ever since. I've been in bands where I've co-written songs with people, or there have been other writers in the band, and have been in other bands where I've just been the guitar player, or have just been the singer, but have just wanted to do that thing because it's so much fun.
The business thing of it, though, is do you mail out the tapes, or you're the guy, or is everybody in the band, looking for somebody to get the tapes to? How does that work?
It's kind of come down to me, and that's been hard. I mean, they're all the guys in the band have a really good attitude and stuff, but they've been real busy with work and with other things, and have just been really up for playing, and they've put in their 2 cents, and they've done flyers and made a few calls, and made some connections with some people, and have had a lot of good suggestions and have done other things that have really driven the thing forward. But most of the booking I've done, and just the organization of the band, the general organization, getting practices together, and I write all the songs and do most of the arranging. And a lot of these guys don't, Danny, who plays keyboards, and Steve on bass, and they don't need to be told anything. They can just play, and their parts are great just the way they come out. But sometimes I spend time working the parts out too. So it's a big job. And I do a lot of it, but that's part of it. So I do it.
So when you're not doing gigs, what kind of playing do you do, or practicing, or?
Well, I'm trying to, I'm always trying to hammer songs out, and I've done a little bit of acoustic playing. They have a couple of venues that do acoustic stuff, and I've gotten out and done more of that. And I've gotten a couple of calls from other people who have projects and bands where I've either sung or played a little guitar on tapes and stuff, and that's always fun to help out friends on their projects. So I do stuff like that, just try and get new material together and keep my chops up, and try a couple of other new things at the same time to
Boy, do you see any things changing as far as having it easier to get a record deal, or some kind of good getting into the clubs that pay more?
It starts out kind of I don't know, I think a popularity thing, and if you can organize a lot of people, and you're real, you got a big kind of a social scene happening, you can put a lot of people in the club. It almost doesn't even matter what you sound like or how good you are. But then as the months go by, and even years, if you a lot of other factors are involved in just making the whole thing take off, and you have to keep those people coming back, or it has to grow. You have to kind of build a recognizable name for yourself around town, and that's one of the toughest things to do. Especially if you're kind of an introvert and you spend a lot of time hanging at home, hanging in instead of hanging out. You're a songwriter, and you practice your instrument and practice with the band. Maybe have a girlfriend. There's getting out. There's time for getting out, but not a lot of it. And sometimes it's tough to get the word out. And the clubs really expect you to do it.
Who do you have playing in this band?
Well, the longest standing member's name is Danny Kassoff, and he plays keyboards, and he's it's a lot. It's a big part of the band. His keyboard doesn't have a million sounds, but it's got 3 or 4 great piano sounds on it, and some strings and organ, and just some other pad sounds that really round the whole sound out and add a lot to what we're doing. And then on bass, Steve Smith plays bass, and he's just great. He was a great find for us. He's from Hunters Point. Danny's from San Francisco as well, and he's just a brilliant bass player in the way that a really good musician who knew a song could hum along, to the song. He can pretty much play bass to whatever's happening. And if we write a song or something, he just jumps on it, and he's got it, and he's got a part that's really fresh and just really distinctive, and just knows exactly what he's doing. It's a great thing. And on drums, we've got a guy named Kevin Edwards, and he's here in Oakland with me, and he adds a great, kind of a funky edge to the band, and he's a really good drummer, and they're all really strong spokes in the wheel, and I sing and play guitar, and that's the whole band right there. We've been together long enough now so that it comes together real quickly, and it actually can be really, it's a good thing, and it can really be refreshing for everybody. And new material is especially a good thing for the band. It can really drive a lot of good energy back into the thing. So, it doesn't take too long to get the old stuff back up to a really high level, and it just feels good to really find some new fresh material, and it's usually always better than what happened before, and so it's fun. It's good. We're all around 30, and we've heard a lot of different types of music, and we're pretty, everybody in the band is a pretty developed musician, and they've got a lot of kind of rock and roll history in their chops, and the sounds are pretty modern, and we try and produce the tapes in a pretty modern way, and we try and write tunes that speak for today, what we're feeling today, and what's going on with us today, and hopefully hit on something that really strikes a chord for a lot of other people, and that's all you can do. And if you don't, hopefully it does it for you, because it's a great feeling when it does.
That's Rob Craig of the San Francisco band Number 9 in conversation with Frank Skillman. I'm Peter Donalds. You're listening to the NeoRadio Hour, and I enjoyed listening to that. I could really relate, as I'm sure you could if you've ever attempted to put together a band or keep a band together. That's the classic story. Rob Craig in conversation tonight, the band Number 9. The Neo Radio Hour, independent audio art.
Stay As a public service to those of you who may be a little confused, let's review the rules of the game. You know, the game. It has rules, you know. Okay, you're born into a family of some sort. Now, right here at the outset, it gets a little screwy. According to the old rules, you're supposed to have two parents, one male, who you hardly ever see, and one female, who attempts to control you with guilt. For you younger listeners, the new rules appear to be as follows. One parent, who you hardly ever see, possibly married or living with a non-biologically related adult. Oh, and guilt now runs the parent's life, not the child's. You also have one or two siblings whom you simultaneously hate and love. When you grow up, you have to see all these people once or twice a year, preferably on a major Christian holiday. When you do, regardless of your age, you revert to your childhood and allow fear to dictate everything you say and do while you're together. I know it's a drag, but hey, these are the rules. Learning to be a good liar within the family is valuable training for all the lying you have to do in the world at large. In college exams, you have to regurgitate exactly what the professor wants to hear. You have to lie on resumes and in job interviews. If you're lucky enough to get a job offer, remember to ask for more than you'll settle for. And when you get that new job and you're ready to buy a car, make sure to offer less than you're actually willing to pay. Oh, speaking of money, you can never tell anyone how much you make, especially coworkers. This is taboo. Oh, here's a big rule. There are rich people and poor people. Always have been, always will be. According to this one, any one single person can escape poverty and abuse and become president of the United States or a computer software billionaire. The other 99.999% can shove it. They had the same chance. Hey, these are the rules. I don't make them up. You can say and believe anything you like, but if you want anyone to listen, if you want any political say-so, you have to fit within a very narrow right, center-right spectrum as defined by George Will and Sam Donaldson on This Week with David Brinkley. Oh, yeah, and you've got to be white, heterosexual, and a man. If you're not, that's okay. Just act like you are. So, these are the rules. Ignore them at your own peril. As long as everyone else follows them, you're screwed if you don't. You can disagree with any of them, or all of them. That's okay. This is America. Only, keep it to yourself. This is Mr. Sunshine.
I'm Frank. I have a bicycle shop in Saigon, New Territories, Hong Kong. Business has been good. I'm enjoying the mellow life out here where the mountains meet the South China Sea. When the other day I'm doing a little shopping at the market, when who should I run into but the Wu brothers? Yeah, they opened a little place in town where they sell T-shirts, toys, magazines, tourist stuff. Book Chai had a barber chair set up in the place. And Nikki does a shadow puppet show out of the place on holiday nights. Nice to see those guys straighten out. However, they told me that my old pal Nigel Kwong of the Royal Harbor Patrol was leaning on them. They were his major suspects in some chop shop operation. I gave Nigel a ring. Inspector Kwong. Oh, it's Inspector now, huh? Frankie! Yeah, it's me, Frank the Bicycle Man in Saigon. Thanks to you and McNaughton. What's up, Frankie? Well, I ran into the Wu brothers the other day. The Wu brothers? You see them? Where are they? I want to talk. Nigel, you should get out from behind that desk, buddy. They're running a souvenir shop over here. What? You should come over. Look, come without an entourage. Leave your uniform at home. I'll set it up. You know, I think the Blues have gone legit. Frankie, meet me at the shop at around 11 or so. We'll have lunch. Hey, it'll be good to see you, Nigel. Fukchai, Nicky. Now, you've heard me on the phone there. I got Inspector Kwong coming out today. We'll have some yum cha and get this thing straightened out, okay? Oh, Frankie, you hope I'm y'all. Good, we bring some shrimp. Look, I got some fresh veggies this morning, okay? Yo, Wah, you up for cooking some lunch today?
Yeah, boss.
Yo, Nicky. Yeah, pick up some pastries. Nigel's got a sweet tooth. I'm Frank. I have a bicycle shop in Saigon, New Territories, Hong Kong. Oh yes, I have maps, $2, Hong Kong, in English and Chinese. All my bikes have baskets and bicycle bells direct from Shanghai. Could you help me out over here? These people don't speak English. Okay, will that be cash or credit card? Have a nice day.
The NeoRadio Hour is written and produced by Peter Donalds and Frank Skillman. Contributing artists this time around, 99 Hooker, Call Me Buana, Pussy Tourette and Deborah Del Mastro, E.G. Willie, The Mud Sharks, Half Head Special, and Troy Sutton. In Conversation, from the San Francisco band Number 9, musician and songwriter Rob Craig. If you're a regular listener to the program, you know that everything you hear on the show is contributed by independent writers and musicians, home tapers, people just like you. We've been getting quite a good response from listeners, and we'd like to keep that up. We hope you'll become part of the show next week. That'll do it for this time. Thanks for listening. I hope you taped it. I'm Peter Donalds.